So here's Salon Zurcher, 11 Women of Spirit, Part 4. We are going to start with Rebecca Smith. Rebecca.
These are wall sculptures, mostly made of steel with color. This one is part of a series called Bending the Hard Way. They're geometrical forms that are eccentrically made. I like the idea of having an intention and watching what happens when it changes through what happens with life. There's a sense of contingency because you can lift up each element and you feel the weight and the natural, the physics of the natural world. This smaller piece is a new group. I put it up high so it could find its own place. These works like architecture, like to find their own place in the world where they are. This particular group is kind of bristly, and it's about the attachment to the wall in a kind of dynamic with how the work presents its face to the world.
Now Bridget Angler.
These paintings are based on math patterns by school children. I found them in a school. They were discarded at the end of the year, and I was fascinated by the flaws in the patterns. I took them to my studio, and what happens with the found is that it actually finds you, like other artists like Marcel Duchamp and Agnès Varda have commented on this phenomenon. And I was prompted by two small shows last year, two experimental shows, to use this pattern. I enlarge them. Seriously?
Fran.
My name is Fran O'Neil, and I'm a modernist abstract painter with a pop sensibility and a penchant for improvisation. My work balances the formal with the playful, and I'm very interested in shape, edges, color, and figureground relationships. And in this world of COVID and this world in trouble, I find, like a lot of artist friends, my studio has become a refuge, and making work has been a great comfort. I consider these, my paintings, ambiguous characters that inhabit my studio in conversation with themselves and with myself, and hopefully with the viewer.
Now we have Jerry Coppola.
We are showing Insomnia, which is glassine, wood, fluorescent lights, iPhone, and plexiglass. Jerry Coppola currently lives and works in New York City and Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. After attending Mason Gross School of Arts, she received her MFA from Bard College. Her work is a combination of photography, sculpture, and installations that focuses on memory in the body and landscape. In her words, the internal space of memory bridges the external world around us. My landscapes become a metaphor for memory and set the story into motion. The flow between real and imagined becomes blurred and travels between narrative and dream state. I use different mediums and materials, and there is always some aspect of the photograph in my work, even if the image gets dropped at the end. I often make light boxes that range from traditional square or rectangular shapes to using the body as a more sculptural form of what a light box can be.
Donna Moylan.
Usually my paintings are landscapes. Sometimes they have people in them, but these I did with the landscape outside and bringing some flowers inside. And I think of them as inside-outside paintings. So here you'll have a sleeping mother with a guardian lion and rooms going back because she's asleep. And as if while she's asleep, the flowers are all occupying space in their own mysterious way. Likewise, with this one, the flowers have sort of an energy field around them. And in this one here, you have a figure dashing off stage.
Right, thank you. Fran O'Neil.
Fran is showing Bridging, 70 by 100 inches, oil on canvas, 2021. An Australian American, Fran O'Neil was born in Wangaratta, Australia, and currently lives and works between Australia and Brooklyn, New York. O'Neil attended Monash University, Melbourne, Australia, earning a BFA and postgraduate degree. Her postgraduate work continued at the New York School's certificate program, and her MFA was completed at Brooklyn College. She has received a Joan Mitchell Foundation Award, and solo exhibitions include Sears Paint and Gallery, New York City, Hathaway Contemporary, Atlanta, West End Gallery, Melbourne, Australia, and John Davis Gallery, New York. In 2016, her work was exhibited at MoCA in Jacksonville, Florida, in a group exhibition titled Confronting the Canvas, Women of Abstraction. And most recently, her work was included in Vital Presence, curated by David Cohen at One Gap Gallery in Brooklyn. In her words, nature is a huge influence on my practice. I attempt to utilize a distilled language of line and movement in conjunction with the physicality of the mark to create succinct impressions of light-filled spaces and suggestive form.
Now we have Mossy Rosenblatt.
These paintings are both very, very specific in the way I put the shapes down, and then I am very interested in, after those shapes are down and I get the composition that I'm most interested in, I use a template and spray another layer of paint. And probably a huge concern of mine is for the viewer to look through that layer. And the color on this layer will change depending on what's underneath it. And I like the idea of the solidity of the forms, the clarity, and then how they get obscured.
Lauren Marks.
I'm Laurel Marks. Photography is my medium, but I actually consider myself to be a painter. I don't use any Photoshop tricks. If anything, what I do is eliminate extraneous detail. I am totally in love with light, and the way light will change a surface and make any content magical. Getting the magical moment is what is the difficult part of my quest, but I'm always looking at everything. The rule that I use at the end is always the last thing I do after I get the color and I get the image and the composition that I want. The rule creates a separate plane for me so that the viewer is thrown back on herself to kind of to reflect any kind of subconscious reflections that they might have. In other words, it makes it more interactive so that the viewer can have more of an experience on their own.
My name is Jackie Schatz, and I started as a painter, but I do consider these halfway between painting and sculpture. They're in different media, mostly ceramic, but also found objects and paper and other materials. And I work from a totally unconscious place, but when I don't think about the meaning of anything, I just think about how things look. And then the meaning emerges out of the process, but I am hyper alert when I'm working, and I feel working from an unconscious place lets me access a lot of sources that I wouldn't be able to access directly. I do look at other people's paintings, extract figures, do a drawing of them, and I work from those drawings. People, modern painters, ancient painters, and everything, but that changes a lot, so you may or may not recognize the particular painting they come from.
We have Rosaire Appel.
Okay, I call these sonographics, and they're digital prints. I think of them as having a reference to poem. So they're sound situations that are very momentary, and my raw material is ambient sound. I'm just listening all the time, because
the world is so fascinating and changing every second when you listen. So these books, which are done on translucent paper, allow for the duration of sound to be explored. So every time a page is turned, you have the echo of it because it's translucent, but you also have what's coming ahead, like a premonition. So this sort of unfolds, they unfold in time, another big aspect of. One more thing, when the eyes listen, the mind sings.
Thank you.
That's my motto.
That's great. Now, Janet Pacell.
My name is Janet Pacell. My work is a collaboration with space, light, gravity, and materials.
Yes.
And I think it's best experienced in silence.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful end.
Great.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
That's